We finish up. For a lot of you, this is the first assessment week. For some of you, you did that last week, and for AP Stats, it'll be one more week later. But I wanted to make this little video here on, how do we get our best performance from ourselves? And the AP Psychology students are going to see this later. This is called Yerkes-Dotson's Law. And it basically says that there's a peak, right? There's the best we do up here, the optimal. And what's kind of is we can have levels of stress, or sometimes on this axis is also arousal. And on this is performance, right? So how well we do. So when we're not very stressed or we're very low aroused, this could be being bored, we're not going to perform very well. And then as we start to get it, we're in our comfort zone and our performance is increasing, but it's not our best. And then as we start to be challenged, right, we really get into where we're learning, we can have our best. But then too much stress, right, as we keep going further along here, we start to get fatigued, we're exhausted, this is our distress zone. And then we slowly get into this anxiety or breakout or burn up when we really want to quit. And what I want to do as your instructor here is I want to keep you in this growth and learning zone, and I want to keep you out of this distress zone. And so I want to kind of talk about some ways in which we can be here and some ways in which we can keep ourselves out of here. So one is this idea that all stress begins with a negative thought. One thought that went unchecked, and then more thoughts came and more until stress manifested. The effect is stress, but the cause was negative thinking, and it all began with one little negative thought. No matter what you might have manifested, you can change it. One small positive thought, and then another. So with this idea here is that, we all have different stressors in our lives, whether it's taking a class or making sure our kids get to school on time or doing laundry or dishes or a big job. Whatever it is, we have those things in our lives, and it's often what we think about is the difference between whether we view that as a good stress or a bad stress. I'll give you a very good example with competitions. Often when people are in a competition, they're very excited about that competition, and it's stressful. And if their thinking is, I'm really ready for this, I'm going to do my best today, then that stress is a good stress. And another person goes into that situation and starts to think about, well, what if I fail? What if I embarrass myself in here? And this is what is being discussed here, is that one negative thought, what if I fail, ends up cascading into many more thoughts, and then your stress becomes far worse than it is. So what can you do, right? Not yet. What can you do when you have a negative thought? You really have to take time to stop yourself. You have to say, no, this is my thought. This is not what's happening outside of me. And I tell people the best rule of thumb is speak to yourself like you'd speak to your best friend, right? If your best friend was saying, what if I fail? You would go through, one, how it's probably not going to be remembered for very long. Two, how even when you don't do what you think you should do, you learn something, right? You would talk to your best friend very kindly. And so stop yourself when you're having that negative thought and help yourself think more positively. All right, what's something else that pushes us into that past peak performance, right? What's something else that gets us to this stage over here? And another thing is our sleeping. All right, when you don't sleep well, you feel fatigued, you have mood changes, you might have difficulty concentrating, your memory gets worse. Usually we don't see too many students down here past the sleep. Usually we get here, right, is where we see students. And so you have to set a time to sleep every night. The work will come back tomorrow. It will be there, and you will do better with it if you have slept. Okay, if none of you are at this stage in your life, but you can talk to your parents of what it was like when you were babies and they were taking care of you. All right, when you're not sleeping, you are not the same person. And the first thing you need to do is make sure that you sleep every night. And also think about the weekends. I know the weekends are fun, but when you get yourself off of us, when you stay up really late or you sleep in really long on the weekends, it messes you up for Monday. I mean, I know myself, if I sleep until 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, then I have a hard time going to bed Sunday night. And then I start my week off more tired than I might normally be. So sleep. All right, now this next part is kind of how I see myself. So on this on this peak performance, on this optimal. The next part is how I see myself helping you stay in this growth and learning zone. And I put this picture here because my children were at swimming lessons yesterday. And I was watching them. Actually, I swam first, and I usually swim pretty much for 30 minutes, and then I watch them for like 15. And you know how silly it would be if that person there was giving that young person a grade for what they were doing? We never do that when we learn to do many things. They're not given a grade. They're given encouragement and they're helped to figure out what they need to be successful. And so, what's the difference between teaching and coaching? And so, in some ways, I'm a teacher, right? I want to help develop your thinking. I'm providing you with lots of information. I give you specific answers to questions you have. Your lessons are fairly well structured. It's based on what you've known in the past. And we're not so much in a group setting because most of what we're doing is individual. Well, what's a coach do? I want to develop your motivation and I want you to pay attention to your goals. You've already seen that, right? I try to ask you questions a lot of times in the feedback. I'll ask you open end questions, or in the lessons, I'm really trying to get an idea about what you're thinking. Um, Depending on how much you want, I'll help you discover things. You send me questions, I'll send you different questions and answers back. I want to help you get rid of your false beliefs. I've talked to a lot of you this past week, if you're not working up to date in mathematics, about how you think about math is going to impact what you're able to do with it, right? We're trying to focus on your future. What are you going to use this stuff for next? All right. And I really am focused on you as individuals. I hope that you can see that. For those of you finishing Unit 1 this week, we're going to schedule calls next week, and I will continue to help you, look at your goals, look at your motivation, figure out how I can help you. And and this takes a lot. One thing I noticed in the discussions I had with people this week, or in things people are chatting to me, is there seems to be this worry, right? When we go back to the thought part, this negative thinking, there's this worry and that I'm going to try to catch something you're not doing and punish you for that, right? And I keep trying to remind people that we're on the same team, right? I'm not here to find anything wrong with what you're doing and make you have a bad grade. It's not that at all. I'm here to help you grow and to learn, and at the end your grade is going to come naturally from that growth. All right. It's not very hard for me to do grading rubrics because we've worked so hard up through the unit. Most of the time people are successful on almost all the TSWs, and if there's one or two TSWs they're not successful on, then we work to be successful on those. All right, so I hope this has helped you, think a little bit more about how to get your best performance from yourself. And if you have any questions, keep sending them my way.